Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score!
Ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Washed it down with 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, a shot of whiskey, a margarita, and a Bloody Mary. And I said, Stone Cold, why have one when you can have them both?
Swung out and drilled! Deep right center! Away back! Gone for Tony!
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton?
Awful.
How is she awful?
Hates freedom.
And now, Any Given Podcast with your hosts, Brendan Ward and Ethan Simpson.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Any Given Podcast with your host, Brendan Ward, and my man,
Ethan Simpson.
Just want to kind of go ahead and get into it and read a statement that I wrote myself about what has transpired in the last week in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that. As you know, last week, an African-American man named George Floyd was brutally murdered by a cop in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A 9-minute video showed the events that transpired where this man, who should have been innocent until proven guilty, faced judge, jury, and executioner in less time than it takes to make an egg or fix yourself a sandwich. For a long time, I didn't see this reality. Me, as a white male in America, could never begin to understand the reality of fear a black man or woman faces on a daily basis. I took a trip to the grocery store earlier today. You know what went through my head? You know what? Doesn't really matter. What matters is what didn't. I didn't worry about not making it home because I might be wrongfully accused. I wasn't worried about a police altercation gone wrong. In fact, I usually have confidence in police, in run-ins with the police, that I'll be fine. That's simply not the case if you're black in America. This may cause some family members to be upset with me. This may cause some friends to doubt my friendship. But I guess if that's what it takes for systemic change, then so be it. Because the thing is, due to the privilege I have, and that a lot of people ignore, I'm confident in saying I have the time to repair those relationships. That's just not the reality if you're black in America. One wrong move and it's over. It's crazy to admit that, but it's true. Being black in America is not easy. Racism is in abundance, and people are getting off scot-free for the unlawful murder of black individuals. Ahmaud Arbery, Tamir Rice, and George Floyd are in a long list of many names that need to be heard. In America, it's time for a change. For now, I'll leave you with Black Lives Matter. Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Ethan before we get into some sports.
So I didn't write anything to be prepared because this has been on my brain the past week. Racism is very much alive in America. And as much as people want to, bat an eye, it's not, not in front of your face, or you're white and you don't have to deal with it. It is alive, and you see it every day on social media, and we need to find a way to make it stop. Not black people or white people, everybody as the human race, because it is despicable seeing these things. It disgusts me when I see things like this online, because some of my closest friends are black. Some of my family members are black. It is disgusting, and it makes me sick seeing this. When people say all lives matter, I get Black Lives Matter, because if black lives don't matter, or they don't matter to the police or other people, then how do all lives matter? Does that make sense, Brendan?
Yeah. I think a lot of people have been putting it as, how can all lives matter until black lives do?
Yeah. And I totally agree. Kent, we just had a protest on Saturday and on Tuesday. It was peaceful. A lot of the protests have been peaceful, and it seems like it's these Antifa, the anarchists that want to come in and they start the burning and the looting, and then it's the Black Lives Matter people that get blamed for it. That whole movement gets blamed for the looting and the rioting that is caused by professional protesters that are anarchist. And I just want to say Black lives do matter, and I love you and I'm here for you guys.
That was just us kind of giving you kind of how we feel. It's really hard to kind of come up with words, especially as I said, a white man in America who doesn't will never be able to understand, never. Uh, just it's what we were afforded with what everyone calls white privilege. We'll never be able to understand, but just know we see and we're here to help. And if you ever want to reach out, I'm never gonna say no to nobody, no matter your race, no matter your skin color. I don't see that. You growing up in Kent has helped you a lot with that. Me growing up in Lorraine, I never really saw it until social media was around, and you could see how all these other individuals are treated outside of the place you live. Uh, but moving on from that, just to kind of add on to it, the NFL Players Coalition did release a statement. Tom Brady posted it on Instagram. I'm going to go ahead and read it aloud. Just like most people following the tragedy that took place in Minneapolis, we found ourselves angered, sad, and desperately looking for answers. It seemed like every week a new tragedy unfolds before our very eyes, where people are being killed by police violence. Each time we tweet, we pray, we mourn, only to repeat the cycle a few days later. We cannot bring back George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile, or Tamir Rice, or any others that have lost their lives as a result of police brutality, but we can fight for a better future, for transformation and accountability in policing to honor their memories. This is a moral imperative necessary to end generations of trauma inflicted on communities. Unfortunately, as civilians, there is only so much we can do. The change has to start from within. Too often we hear personnel files filled with multiple complaints after the officer has done irreparable harm, and even then we wait for some form of accountability, some form of justice to be served. Officer Derek Chauvin's personal file is riddled with complaints, 18 of them in fact. If the right people had been watching, listening, and acting, George Floyd might still be breathing today. To the many, many good law enforcement officers, we need you now more than ever. We need you to implement real structural change to law enforcement accountability in this country. We need you to be more courageous and neither be silent nor complicit in the misconduct of your peers. We need leaders that are willing to hold themselves accountable to a higher standard of integrity befitting of a public servant. We also need you to push for policy that leads us to justice, not more suffering. Many police union contracts protect bad actors, and we need you to push to change that. Some, for example, require departments to purge civilian complaints from their records after a certain amount of time. Others restrict departments' ability to investigate allegations of an officer's use of force until after that officer reviews evidence. No other suspect in the criminal legal system receives such a benefit. Clauses like these, which allow bad actors to remain on police forces, should not be tolerated. Officers that are unfit to carry out their duty to serve should not be in our communities and are a bad representation of the many officers that serve with empathy and compassion. We call on you to push for their elimination. Mayors negotiate these contracts in many places, and they must push for change too. To the prosecutors whose job it is to seek justice, we need you to treat cases of police violence with the same vigor as you would in pursuing justice for any other case. 99% of police-involved killings between 2013 to 2019 did not result in the charge. That has to change. To the Supreme Court, we need you to get rid of qualified immunity. That doctrine, created by you, protects police officers who have engaged in extremely violent, egregious misconduct from civil suits. You are considering over a dozen cases right now, and you can change this doctrine. Right now, you are enabling a culture where officers know there will be no consequences for bad behavior. The common refrain is that there are only a few bad apples, but let's be clear. One bad apple in a police force is one too many, and it must become a standard operating procedure that all bad apples, however many there are held accountable for their misconduct. including for covering up the misconduct of other officers. We know we need those people with power, the police chiefs, prosecutors, mayors, and the highest court in the land to change this. We dream of a police community filled with officers who are committed to the safety and well-being of the people they serve and are willing to hold themselves and their peers accountable to that standard. It won't happen overnight, but it is painfully evident that American policing needs significant structural change. As we fight for that change as the Players Coalition, we can only hope that you, the many good people within our justice system, will push for that change from within. We need you now more than ever.
Yeah, I mean, they hit that, they hit the nail on the head right there. And I agree with that. I think all 4 officers need to be charged. The officers that were on George Floyd need to get the manslaughter and murder charges. And I think the one officer that was standing by, he needs to get accomplice to a murder charge.
Absolutely. I watched a video the other day from a guy named Killer Mike down in Atlanta that really very educating in terms of what he was talking about, and just unacceptable. The fact that there were 3 people on this one man who claims that there was resisting arrest. Now, I can't attest for exactly what happened, but I could tell you I've seen videos of from different perspectives of the altercation that shows that they had him pretty much in handcuffs. They were able to walk him across the street to their cruiser before they took this man's life. Like you said, all 4 need to be held accountable. The only one that probably won't get a murder charge is going to be the one that was standing up, just standing there. But all the other ones, the 2 that were on his legs and back, Chauvin, whose name has been released, that was on his neck, all should be, like they say in the Players Coalition statement, pursued and prosecuted with the same vigor that you would of any civilian that murders somebody. We no longer need to look at this as a cop accidentally killed somebody. We need to look at it as this man murdered another man.
And they worked together at the same nightclub too. So he knew the guy, which is absolutely mind-blowing. I don't know how he can get 1st degree, or at least 2nd degree.
I hadn't heard about them working at the same nightclub, but that to me makes it even more of an on-purpose type of thing. You know what I'm saying? If you knew this guy, like, come on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they hired him as the off-duty cop to stand outside when people were coming, and Floyd was an inside security guard.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't seen that, but that it just adds more fuel to the fire for me. Like I said, a reality that maybe wasn't as kind of evident to me prior to probably the last couple years, but something that just continues to get worse and worse in my eyes. And just to look at it, and the reality is, it's not cool. I watched the "I Have a Dream" speech the other day. That was back in the '60s. We're nearing almost 60 years since MLK Jr. had his speech and was killed later in the evening / the next day type of thing. 60 years. We're over 100 years since slavery ended. The fact that these guys these black people in America are still fighting this is just ridiculous to me. They were never inferior. We just had people in power that made it seem that way, and it shouldn't be that way anymore. There were reasons for the change that happened when they did, and it's been over 100 years. Come on, at this point.
And last year, for class, we did the 1619 documentary that we worked on as a class, and that was another one of those just like, wow.
I really, if we get a chance to finish that at some point, that could really come out and just show people, just because like this. If you don't know what the 1619 project is, it is a project on, what was it? New York Times, correct?
Yeah.
Project on New York Times that details just what happened in 1619 with slavery, and then it goes into the Jim Crow laws and stuff like that, and it's really an educational project. And I don't remember the exact author of it or who wrote it, but we were trying to make a documentary on that exact project, and it's very, very informative. And if you haven't yet, if you're still struggling as an outside race, outside of the black or African American race, I suggest you read it and learn just the oppression outside of the history books. I learned so much more while we were doing that than what I learned in history books, because you learn some stuff in history books, but you have no clue until you start breaking it down and looking into it, just how much oppression black people have gone through in America since 1619, which was 400 years ago.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Shouts out my man, Mr. Larry Highball. He's while we were after we graduated core, me and Brendan went into sports emphasis, but Larry continued to work on the documentary, and I think close to finishing before COVID-19 hit, and we couldn't go back to Ohio Media School. So I think it's getting there, because I've talked to him many times when he was in there editing and working, and I was like, dude, I wish we could help, man, but like we're in the middle of our sports class. He's like, no, man. He's like, I get it, dude. So I'm excited to see how it works out.
Yeah, even if it becomes a Larry Highball project, more than a 312 project, Larry deserves a lot of credit for that project. And it was Larry's brainchild, and I'm glad he stuck with it. And Larry, I hope we could get him on the show one day, because Larry is one of the best dudes you'll ever meet, and he's so informative and he's so educated, and he'll change your perspective on the world.
And he listens too. That's the thing. He takes in he's not closed-minded at all. He takes in everybody's different opinion and different views, where people came from and stuff. He's a great dude, really awesome, helps out a lot.
He just wants everyone to understand everyone.
He loves his flip-flops.
Loves his flip-flops. Loves his old school hats.
Oh yeah. But my final statement on this is there just needs to be a change in America, because this is unacceptable. I don't get how people are still defending that police officer, like that mayor in, I think it was Mississippi or Missouri. I think it was Mississippi, but he was like, if he can still talk, he can still breathe. And there's been multiple doctors on different news programs talking about you're still able to talk, but you can't fully get the breath that you need. So it's cutting off the oxygen to your brain. So that was,
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and like you said, last statement, all lives do matter, but let's focus on black lives right now, because they're the ones that need help.
Right. Like they said earlier, all lives don't matter if black lives don't matter. So
yes. So moving forward, let's go ahead and get into sports, my man.
Alrighty. So we are going to talk about the NASCAR races that happened last Thursday and Sunday. And unfortunately, I did not get a chance to watch those. I was more watching the news and seeing what was going on around the country. But I did obviously watch ESPN and stuff like that afterwards. So we're going to start with the race on Sunday. Brendan.
What a contract year it is for Mr. Brad Keselowski of Penske Racing. Wins 2 Sundays in a row after taking a little hiatus from winning. But I want to talk about Chase Elliott. Last week I said he might be the hottest racer there is. He continues to put himself in a position to win. In fact, he won that race on Thursday. I don't know what which race it was exactly. I don't know if it was Xfinity or Monster or which exactly.
That was the Cup Series.
Monster. Okay. Yeah, he won the race on Thursday, but all of these races, the last couple Sundays, he's putting himself in. 2 weeks ago, on Sunday, he has the lead at the end. Kyle Busch wrecks him. Last Sunday, has the lead at the end. Takes a random pit out of nowhere. This Sunday, puts himself in a position to get the lead at the end and crashes with Joey Logano. Now, he took the credit for this one, apologizing to Logano. Obviously, Logano was a little hot-tempered. Didn't really think it was a good apology. But Chase Elliott, he continues to put himself in that conversation for he's going to win this race. And then 3 Sundays in a row, 3 issues that kind of were almost out of his control. This one, obviously, he takes the blame for. But the pit stop last Sunday didn't really make sense, and then 2 wrecks on alternating Sundays.
Yeah, and I think I was really hoping that there was going to be some kind of physical altercation between them, because it's always fun seeing NASCAR drivers fight each other. But there was none. They just Joey Logano told him, hey, you took me out. And then Chase Elliott apologized, and they went their separate ways. And then obviously Logano, when he was doing his one-on-one interview, was like, that was piss poor excuse of apology.
He was like, he's a professional. He knows what he's doing. That's a bullshit apology, basically. Mm-hmm. But that's Logano. Logano, you say you were almost looking forward to a physical altercation. Logano is one of the few people I know that has been in one. Now, it seems like a lot of people like to take swings at Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch does a lot of stuff that deserve a lot of swings.
Kyle Busch has that face, though.
He does have that. He just has that annoying face. I get it, and he's very like I said, a very casual racing fan. But I know who Kyle Busch is just from what racing fans consider dirty. My buddy texts me after every race, and Kyle Busch has done something new. I think he wrecked somebody the other day, and all I can think of is, Kyle Busch again. So, I get why a lot of people dislike Kyle Busch, but he did that Xfinity race yesterday. Him and his brother were in the booth. I don't know how well that went, but I sometimes find entertainment in Kyle Busch because yes, he does do a lot of the dirty stuff, but he almost turns it around and pulls WWE style promos. He reminds me a lot of Ricky Bobby almost.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't stand his face. He's got those puffy eyes. I don't know. I just wonder, does he know that his extremely smoking hot wife probably doesn't love him?
He probably doesn't care. I don't.
Right.
That's not something I can speak on. He's a rich dude. His wife. He probably got his wife because of the money he had.
Sure.
It's the reason Tony Romo was able to date Jessica Simpson back in the day. Tony Romo got some money. Jessica Simpson was hot. End of story. But yeah, a very good contract year for Brad Keselowski. And they weren't sure. Penske's really not sure if they were going to bring him back. And then 2 weeks in a row, 2 wins in a row in 500-mile races.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski, he's one of the, the veterans nowadays. And he knows the game. He's got one of the, you're a great driver when you get, one number and you stick with it.
I was thinking
he's been
that.
in the number 2 car for as long as I can remember. It's and he's always driving the Miller Lite cars. So once you get one of those primetime sponsors, you stick with the same number, you're pretty much set for life.
Yeah, and it was weird seeing him outside of a Miller Lite car on Sunday, but still driving number 2. He was.
Yeah, they with that they have a couple different sponsors that they go through. Chase Elliott in the number 9, he drives for Napa Auto Parts, and then sometimes he drives the Hooters car, which I would love to drive the Hooters car.
Can't be mad at him for driving the Hooters car.
No, not at all.
Not everyone has that one premium sponsor. I get it. No, it's just the number two. Like you said, he's pretty synonymous in NASCAR history with the number two. Who else you got at number two besides Brad Keselowski?
Oh,
I'm sure there's someone. Like I said, I'm sure there's someone. But Brad Keselowski probably becoming one of the top names synonymous with number two in NASCAR.
well, Dale Earnhardt won his first ever NASCAR strictly stock series race at Old Charlotte Speedway dirt track in a number 2 car.
What a Easter egg, bro. What a nugget you just pulled out. Dale Earnhardt had number 2 on his car. What a nugget. But he's synonymous with number 3. I can't think of immediately who was number 2 right before Brad Keselowski. You know what I'm saying?
Kurt Busch drove the number 2 car. Tim Richmond drove the number 2 car.
Okay, there we go. See, like I said,
Kyle Boyd.
I'm sure you could find somebody. Just, I still would argue that he's probably one of the top names that drove it.
I know there's somebody that I'm forgetting that is Rusty Wallace.
That's the top name.
I was trying to remember. I was like, I know there's somebody who's, known better for driving the number 2. Rusty Wallace.
That's the thing, though. Like, back in that era, those numbers were more synonymous with the driver. You know what I'm saying? You had the Earnhardts, or you had Petty in the 43, or even, like, Gordon in the 24, Stewart in the 20, Jimmy Johnson in the 48, Junior in the 8, and then he switched to 88. More drivers stuck with their one number back then. What was his name? Michael Waltrip, number 15.
Yeah.
What was that, Napa Auto Parts? Then he was switched to Aaron's.
Bobby and Terry Labonte.
They were Bobby was 18, right?
Bobby was Kellogg's. Or no, Bobby drove the he drove the Interstate car.
The Interstate Battery 18.
Terry drove in the Kellogg's car.
Yeah, you got these basically generational drivers going on right now in NASCAR. Can't wait till we get Jeff Gordon Jr.
I think Jeff Gordon has like all girls.
You could race as a chick.
Well, I mean, you said Jeff Gordon Jr. He's, you know what? I take that back. His son's name is Leo.
Wow, Leo Gordon. Okay, I could get behind it.
He's only 9.
That's 10 years, bro.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
In 10 years, when I'm 35, 34, 35, that's going to be height of my NASCAR fandom.
Yeah, I mean, hey, NASCAR is all the way, baby. Love me some NASCAR. It's always a great, Sundays, because you can take a nap while watching a little NASCAR and wake up, and you're like, oh, what happened?
That is literally what happened to me Sunday. I watched stage 1, took a nap during stage 2, and then woke up to watch stage 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it goes. Let's see here. So, I was going to say let's switch it over to the standings here, the NASCAR standings.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and give them to me. I don't have them pulled up.
All right, so in first place is Kevin Harvick. Second place, Joey Logano. Third place, Chase Elliott. Fourth place, Brad Keselowski. Fifth place, Alex Bowman. Sixth, Martin Truex Jr. Seventh, Denny Hamlin. 8, Ryan Blaney. 9, Kyle Busch. And 10, Kurt Busch. So, I mean, those are, pretty much the guys you expect to be in the top 10.
Keselowski and Harvick have the wins. Logano has I think he has like 4 stage wins at this point. Like I said, Elliott has been in the conversation for top 5 every single race since they've returned. So,
And then,
so it makes
yeah.
sense.
So, Denny Hamlin has 2 wins, Alex Bowman 1, Keselowski 2, Elliott 1, Logano 2, and Kevin Harvick 1.
Exactly.
And that's like, it goes through the stages and all that, so.
Yeah, I think Logano's 2 are both stage wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think he's won a total like a full race like stage 3. Maybe he has. Maybe before everything kind of happened with COVID, but
he won the Dual 1 race, and he won Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
were those both? Those were probably both before I forgot they raced during with that virtual stuff.
Uh-huh.
So I forgot they did that. So
And it said he won at Phoenix, too.
yeah, so like their top 5 just about makes sense. It's the guys who have racked up wins, stage wins, multiple wins. Obviously, if a few things shook differently for Chase Elliott, he'd probably be number 1. He's sitting at what, 4 right now,
Chase is at 3.
or even better, he's sitting at 3. Some things shake his way, he's probably sitting at 1. The thing is those things that went his way went differently for Harvick and Logano, and that's why they're sitting at 1 and 2.
Yeah, and if he would have those couple races, like you were saying, if Chase wouldn't have taken the pit stop and all that, he probably would be at number 1 right now or number 2.
Well, minus 2 crashes and a pit stop at an overtime restart, he's won 3 Sundays in a row.
Yeah. So from that, the projected playoff ranking right now is Joey Logano at 1, Kevin Harvick at 2, Brad Keselowski at 3, Elliott at 4, Denny Hamlin at 5, Alex Bowman at 6, Martin Truex at 7, Ryan Blaney at 8, Kyle Busch at 9, and Clint Bowyer at 10. Clint Bowyer is ranked 12th right now.
It's just thinking of like what people have done lately and how they're projected to go forward, which makes sense because Logano has been up. The people that are top 5 have been up there consistently, and then you've got Kyle Busch, who, like you said, he's got that face, but I did watch him get sent to the back on Sunday and then make it in the top 10 by the end of the race. So
yeah, that is true. I mean, he's a great driver. There's no doubt about that.
it's unfortunately undeniable how good he really is. He just does some dirty stuff, and a lot of people just dislike him.
Yeah, I just don't like him because his face. It's like from Step Brothers, Rob Riggle. It's like, change your face before I change it for you.
It happens, but on to baseball, my man. The other day, the players proposed to the owners a 114-game season with playoffs lasting past Thanksgiving. So we would have Thanksgiving baseball. The owners unanimously said no. Yesterday, they then proposed that they would rather play a 50 to 60 game season. The kind of thought around that is that players do not want to take that much of a cut and play that little of games. Obviously, the idea that they've already agreed to the fully prorated salary, all they have to do is nail down pretty much how many games they're going to play. But extending the season into December, basically, if they do go with over 100 games, to me is they're going to have to do the two city format where we're not playing home games.
Yeah, and the thing is, so they said 114 games, and then the MLB said 50. Oh, my bad. Didn't mean to put my hand in the camera. The MLB said 50. I think they're both just trying to work their way to 82 games, but they're just, they're playing hardball right now, which at this time, like, come on, guys.
Well, that's the thing. If they agree to this, we're looking at baseball in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I would love to see an 82 game schedule. That sounds perfect.
I'd love to see any type of schedule, but like you said, it seems like the players went absurd with the 114. So the owners basically were like, well, we're going to go absurd. We're only playing 50.
Mm-hmm. It's like watching Pawn Stars or American Pickers when this guy wants this much, but then they lowball him, and then,
This guy, I watched a video on Facebook of Pawn Stars the other day. This guy took an original 1982 Super Mario Brothers game, one of the first to ever be developed, in a sticker sealed case, the rarest game ever, and he was asking $1 million. They offered him like $5,000.
Was he talking to the boss man?
Yeah, he was talking to the boss man.
Rick?
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah, he was talking to the boss man, and the guy was like, I really think it's probably worth more than this, but I just don't know the video game industry. $5,000. And the guy was like, can you call somebody? So they called somebody. And then the dude was like, yeah, this is like the craziest game, the craziest, rarest, most collectible piece of gaming we've ever seen. I would probably value it at $30,000. I was like, well, he's not getting $1 million.
Right. I would have tried to get it up to at least like 45.
Well, that's what he went 40, and then Rick was like, nah, I'll do 20, bro. And then he was like, I really don't even want to take less than $1 million. So he walked away.
I mean, there's places you could probably do that for. I think you just wanted to get on Pawn Stars.
That's like, there's places you might fetch $1 million on eBay or something. You get a bidding war between those gaming collectors, but you're not gonna go into a pawn shop and get $1 million for a video game, especially not that place. Obviously, they take bigger stuff and more expensive stuff, but just no at all. You're not gonna get it.
I actually drove by that place when I was in Vegas in 2018.
I'd like to visit it at one point.
Out on the Strip.
Out on the Strip. You said what year?
18.
You were just old enough?
I was more than old enough.
You had just turned 21 that year, ain't it? 18? You're 23, right?
Yeah.
You'd have been turning 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I was still technically 21.
Depending on when you went.
Yeah. All right, well, before we get off topic there. So, proposing baseball goes to Thanksgiving. They're going to, I'm assuming, do the neutral sites.
They would have to, right? If they go that late, there's no way you play a playoff game in November in New York or Chicago or Cleveland or anywhere in the East.
because they said 14 teams in the postseason with games played in home cities in October, which, I mean, that's, World Series time. But when you're starting to talk about November, that's when the snow starts to fall in Cleveland.
Yeah, there's no way in the East you get any home playoff games.
Yeah, and that's going to be weird because if it goes to November, then are they doing the World Series at neutral sites?
That's what I was worried about, and I think with the 50-game proposal, it probably takes that away because then the season's probably just ending up about the same time it normally does. But my biggest worry about this is, sure, we could do all this to come back and we could play as long as we want, but like we'll get into with the NBA, just how late is too late? Because obviously baseball has a little more time because spring training doesn't start till March or April. But so if they end in December, that's still okay. But how? But with them, winter is not a baseball. Winter is not for baseball. It still snows in most places that aren't Los Angeles or Texas or Florida. You're still going to get snow. So, like, you're going to have hub cities, basically, that are going to be hosting playoff events. And it's something that, like, yeah, if we have to, like, seemingly we have to with the NBA. So, yeah, if we have to, then that's something that I'm okay with. But, like, if we can get a home World Series, should the Indians make it to the World Series, I want that. I would love to be able to be in the industry we're in, or you get that internship with whatever you're going to do and be able to go to Indians World Series locker room or something like that. I don't want to have to watch or the Indians play at 10 o'clock at night because they got to play at Dodger Stadium. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why when they played the Cubs, it wasn't that bad. It was just an hour back.
Yeah, there wasn't no drastic change. It's not like trying to catch LeBron play now, but it's hard because none of his games start till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night here in Ohio.
Right? And then unless you're Brian Windhurst or something, you're not covering LeBron in Cleveland.
Yeah, and like I'm obviously we will hear about LeBron, but like I don't need to see every single game he plays in anymore.
Yeah. And so speaking of LeBron and the NBA, with their new season, we're just discussing now, they are looking at a when was the start date again? June 1st?
July 31st.
Or July 31st.
My little
My
sister's
apologies.
birthday.
And they plan on, maybe if it goes to a game 7 of the finals, it would be in November. So,
Thought it was October 12th.
oh, October 12th. Sorry. See, you got me all mixed up with talking about baseball in November. So, yeah, October 12th.
Well, like when I went on my tangent with baseball, that's entirely too late. That's 2 weeks before the normal NBA season starts.
Yeah. And like we discussed with the 2020-2021 season, are they willing to give up that Christmas Day games?
Well, that's where I'd be lost because then you're looking at 3 weeks of off season, a week or two at training camp, and then just starting another season.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some of your older stars can't do that. LeBron can't do that.
He would try, but
He would certainly give his best effort. I'm not saying he wouldn't. There's no way LeBron can basically consider this COVID-19 pandemic his off season, come back and make a title run, which he could very much do, and then start another season 3 weeks later.
yeah, it's just it's hard. I mean, the young guys could probably do it, but yeah, I don't see LeBron or one of those guys being able to do it, especially not, LeBron or one of the older guys in the league that are, still in there, like Chris Paul or Harden or Melo.
Or like now Russell Westbrook's a freak of nature athletically. I think he probably could do it because he's still pretty young. But like Kevin Durant, if the Nets do decide to bring him back for this run, he wouldn't be able to do it. Kyrie's legs probably couldn't handle it. Like you said, the young guys, John Morant, Zion Williamson, they probably can handle it just fine.
Mm-hmm.
These older guys, the Kevin Love probably can't handle it well. Tristan Thompson probably can't handle it well. Draymond Green, I mean, who cares? But he probably can't handle it well.
That is true.
Like Steph Curry, after coming back from injury, probably can't handle it that well. So like I get like you want to do everything to crown a champion this year. want to do that much because now you're losing next year too.
Yeah, I totally get it. My bad. I scooted it over for a second. It sounded like it was overheating, so I kind of messed up my camera view.
It's all good.
But
I've been all over myself.
but yeah, do you start the season in December, like before Christmas? So, or do you kick it off on Christmas Day, and then have those, have like the Lakers and Bucks play, and those kind of rivalry teams play, just
That's,
so you can save that Christmas game.
I would think that they would want to 100% start a new season by Christmas. I don't think they want to give Christmas Day, like the NFL even schedules football games on Saturdays if it falls on a Sunday. Like,
Yeah.
everybody stays away from Christmas Day because it's an NBA day. Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously things are a little different, so things might change, but like then how far back into January are you able to push that next season? So are you only going to get 60 games in 2020 or 2021 as well? So then you could finish in June this time so that you could start back up right on time in January. It's really going to throw a lot of things off, and I think LeBron can do it, like you said, because he's a freak of nature. But just going to like his age and how many years he's been in the league, and obviously he's not. At some point, he's not going to be the same human freak that we've seen. I don't know, man, if it's even worth it. Like, obviously, I'd love to see basketball before October. But if I'm going to get to see basketball until October and then have to see a watered down version of basketball through 2021 just because we needed to crown a 2020 champion, I'm not for it one bit.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing with COVID-19 kind of just coming in right before the season started winding down, and it was just like boom, it kind of threw a wrench really in basketball and baseball. I don't think it's going to affect football too much, but that's another topic for in a second. But I would, yeah, a watered down 2021 season would, I mean, it just wouldn't be fun to watch. And then what happens when you have to try to get back onto the regular schedule?
Well, and that's really the problem. Like, if you think about it, we're talking about a return that for basketball that's going to require 3 rounds of the playoffs, the NBA Finals. So you think each round of the playoffs is 2 weeks? That's at least 8 weeks, and then I'm sure they want at least 10 regular season games. And we're already at it's June 2nd, 2020. I don't know about you, but that's normally when the NBA Finals start.
Mm-hmm.
So we're already at the time where the NBA season should be ending, and we're talking about it not coming back for pretty much another 2 months.
Yeah, I guess it gives them time to prepare. Didn't they say they're going to do like a mini training camp and stuff again too?
I get it gives them time to prepare, but if baseball can come back in the middle of June to do spring training games, I feel like we could do preseason games in the NBA by the end of June, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, and then the regular season probably could start back at the start of June or the start of July or mid-July, and then maybe won't push you back to the middle of October, and then gives you a little more time, gives you all of October and November and December to get yourself together. Gives you that extra month of off season, so they're not losing as much. You know what I'm saying? I just think lollygagging around till July 31st, like, yeah, it probably gives you a really good chance at staying open, or it's staying active, at not suspending your season once again. But it really, really doesn't allow for much room in terms of an off season and in terms of trying to get 82 games in next year.
Yeah, it's just a tough one. It's a tough one because if you do start at Christmas and you go until June and you have a shorter season now, so that you can hop back or maybe even end the season, do the finals in July, and then that'll give you a chance to kind of, it's like trying to fix your sleep schedule, you know.
Yeah, and
You'll mess up your sleep schedule for that one day, but then you can get right back on it.
yeah, it is. And like you said, but my thing is like there's already the complaints about too many back to backs. Could you imagine how many back to backs they have to put in a schedule where they're stuck trying to fit an 8 month schedule into 6 or 5?
Yeah, yeah,
It's just it's unfortunate. Like obviously, there's nothing we could do about it. It's something that we live with at this point in time.
it's like everybody keeps saying it's the new normal.
It 100% is the new normal. What is your thought on only bringing 22 games back instead of all 30, 22 teams back instead of all 30?
um if they're only going to play pretty much like two 2 months, then yeah, it makes sense just kind of keeping the best of the best in there, or the contenders in there, and keeping out we talked about last week, keeping out the Cavs or the Warriors, which sounds really weird to say, calling those two teams the worst teams in the NBA.
It's a real
But
flip from the last 4 years.
yeah, but I think that's a good choice to do, keeping it short, small.
Minimizing as many people you have in Disney World, because that seems like where it's going to be. Minimizing the bodies just you have there is going to do nothing but help. But what's the point in bringing the Cavs back for 10 games all the way to Orlando, all the way through another training camp, another couple preseason games, for them to just be like, all right, you're going to play these 10 games and go home? Like, I get, like, okay, that they might have been on people's schedule and stuff like that. We're not playing the same schedule. We're rescheduling stuff. We're going to play Portland at Los Angeles for Portland a chance to make the playoffs. Or we might even get like a straight to playoffs thing.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I didn't realize how low my laptop was.
You're all good. Grab
To everybody out there, I apologize. Give me 1 second.
So unprofessional, man. What the? I'm just kidding. It happens to the best of us. I try to keep mine plugged in, but I'll go ahead and go on a tangent. So just to kind of keep going, 22 gives you 11 in each conference, and past the top 11 teams in each conference, what's the point? You're not good enough. There's only 15 in each conference. The top 8 make it each year, and even the 8th seed is usually a mute point in terms of beating the 1 seed. So I don't really think it matters, especially if they do a start right away playoffs where you have 10 or 11 seeds making the playoffs and play-in games and stuff like that. That 8th seed is always far and away terrible compared to that 1 seed. What are you going to have? Bucks, Magic? That's obviously lopsided. Obviously 1 to 8, if Portland gets in at 8, is a little closer between LA and Portland than it is Milwaukee and Orlando. But still, I like the idea of giving a team like Portland the chance to be in the playoffs, who is still out of the playoffs, because you want that name recognition of Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum, and now they have Whiteside and stuff like that. So you want that team in the playoffs just for revenue and entertainment value and stuff like that. It's hard to call, and I get why it's taking so long, and not too many people are going to sit here and tell you they understand why it's taking so long to get a deal done or get the exact plan done. The only thing is I don't know if you already have everything in principle in place, why we're waiting till the end of July.
Yeah, start it sooner. I mean, you can do your training camp in in June, and then start it at the beginning of July, because they opened up their facilities. What was that, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah, exactly, and if baseball can, like, obviously baseball's a little more socially distant, But if baseball is going to go back to training camp once they get a deal done in the middle of June, actually right before my birthday, uh, then I don't see why basketball can't as well. Obviously, a little more, a little less socially distant, but also it's still like if we're gonna try to bring a little normalcy to this virus, these are some chances we'll have to take. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I I just don't see why they don't use June as the training camp, like I just said, and then start at the beginning of July. It makes total sense to do that. That way, you can have a month longer to weed out and keep playing, keep those guys looking fresh.
Well,
So it so in that way, when they do get to the playoffs, at least those guys, they're not just they haven't been sitting around for 3 4 months.
even if you want to keep it on the same path where the regular season starting July 31st, I think it could do nothing but help getting your guys into a camp as soon as possible. But I also advocate for the earlier you could start that regular season, the earlier you could get done with that NBA Finals, the better you are at reestablishing a season for 2021. And a viable season. Like, obviously, there's already all this talk about, oh, is it really going to be that much of the same type of feel for the champion this year? Just because of everything that goes on, it's not going to be the same as winning a title every other year, which there can be arguments for or against it, or that it's actually tougher, or that it's actually easier because they had that layoff in the middle and time to rest and stuff like that. But so why would you want to have that kind of overshadow 2 years in a row? You know what I'm saying?
It's I guess that's what Adam Silver and the NBA PA thinks is best.
Well, I was a little stunned when that came out a couple of days ago and it said Adam Silver says target date for July 31st. All I could think of, it's not even May 31st, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you still got a whole 2 months before that. I thought we're talking like 2 weeks. But speaking of business as usual, schedules as usual, and an organization trying to make everything just kind of go the way of the world and the way of normalcy, the NFL released that training camps must be at team facilities this year. So teams like the Dallas Cowboys, who usually do their training camps in Oxnard, California, or like most teams don't do it at their own facility. The Browns are one of the few teams that actually stay home to do their own practices, but they also announced that, and this is a big one because a lot of teams do joint practices, especially in the preseason before preseason games and stuff like that. No joint practices will be allowed during training camp this year. Just some more stuff that has come down during COVID, and more policy changes that the NFL has swiftly tried to implement to make sure that they are business as usual come August and September, so they can have a training camp and a regular preseason, and maybe even hopefully have fans in the stands come September, the first and second week of September when we're kicking off the regular season.
So I totally get the whole, having your training camp at your own facility. I never understood why some teams don't do that. Because for me, it's always been, going up to Berea and seeing the boys out there, watching them see who's going to make the team, who's not. But the true question I have for not being allowed to hold joint training camp practices is what's going to happen with Hard Knocks this year? Because it was supposed to be Rams Chargers.
Uh, I imagine like the rules might be bent for them. I also imagine with the fact that they put them in the same thing, they're gonna try to host the same. They're gonna try to have them host the same camp.
Okay.
Like it's because they're both LA teams. They share the stadium. They'll probably end up sharing facilities somewhere. And LA, the Rams, since they've been in LA, have been doing it at I can't think of the college's name, but it's some college in California, uh, and I think the Chargers have been just doing it where they were doing it in San Diego.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well,
s-
that makes sense.
so I think if they just merge together and do it together at, let's say, the college that the Rams were doing, or if there's enough room at the San Diego, where they were practicing while they were the San Diego Chargers, then I think that's the way they would do it. Because I doubt the NFL wants to give up Hard Knocks for this year. They definitely want to continue to do stuff, even in addition to Hard Knocks that can bring revenue rather than already what they're going to lose if they don't have fans.
Yeah, I totally get that. And that makes sense. The two teams from LA, they share the same stadium. They're going to be playing together. So why not just have them do joint practices while they're at it? Because it's not like, you know, the Cowboys coming up and playing the Rams or something like that. It's completely different. These guys are already there. So that might actually work out for HBO.
And the thing is like even though it's the same facility and HBO can film it in the same spot, they can still be separate. They don't have to be together. They don't have to do the joint practices. Like obviously, it would have been cool to see that for 4 weeks and to see two teams mold each other heading into the season. But like you obviously understand the idea behind director's cuts and the motion of cameras and stuff like that, and that it, what you're seeing on screen isn't always what's being filmed. So they could even film two separate practices and make it look like it's one.
Make it look like they're almost sharing the different sides of the field.
Yeah.
So speaking of the football season coming up, this is something I didn't discuss with you before. I'm going to throw you a little curveball here.
Throw me what you need to throw me, man. Let's finish it off in style.
Who do the Browns have a better chance making it into the playoffs than the Bucks and the Patriots?
I'm gonna simply say yes. Uh, Now I think the Buccaneers obviously probably if you look at them with who they have at quarterback and with bringing Gronk in and just they already had a successful offense. Now they just have a guy that's like I'm not gonna speak ill will of Jameis, but that didn't throw 30 interceptions last year. So the defense isn't going to be in bad situations. So like I'd really love to say Tampa Bay. I just think it's going to be significantly harder to make the playoffs in the NFC, especially the NFC South. You've got New Orleans still with Drew Brees playing significantly better than what I would say Tom Brady is playing. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is going to thrive in Matt Rule's offense and be able to do just as well. The Falcons are always hit or miss. They're either really good or somewhere in the middle. And they've been somewhere in the middle for a couple of years. Adding Todd Gurley, adding a new tight end, expect them to maybe change some things up and be competitive in that South. But outside the South, you have the Eagles and the Cowboys in the East looking to win that, and whoever doesn't win it probably looking to be in a prime position to get one of the three wild card spots. Then in the West, you've got the 49ers who went to the Super Bowl last year, and then the Seahawks who are also really good. Kyler Murray now has DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. So I just think it's really hard to make it's going to be really hard to make it in the NFC East. I think the Browns could win the AFC or I I think it's going to be really hard to make it in the NFC. I think the Browns could win the AFC North and be the division uh, participant in the playoffs, or I think they have the talent to where they could easily in the AFC take uh, one of those wild card spots pretty easily because in the AFC East, you've got the team that wins it, and then you could very well have 3, 4, and 12 teams. In the South, the Texans look to be the favorites, but don't like the Colts could be really good too, or Philip Rivers could do what he did last year and take them to 4 wins. In the North, like you've got the Ravens and the Steelers that are going to give you obviously some slack, but I really think that the AFC North could really possibly send 3 teams to the playoffs this year.
I could definitely see that. I mean, the Steelers, that's the one team where it's kind of iffy there with will Big Ben be able to come out and be Big Ben again after that
Exactly.
injury?
I'm not
Or
really sure.
or are they going to have to rely on Duck or um, Mason Rudolph?
That's really the kind of the qualm with the Steelers for me is like, yes, I dislike the Steelers because obviously I support the Cowboys and the Browns, but like they've always had this sort of respect from me just because they've always been decently good. But is Ben going to be Ben? We don't know.
Like I said on the podcast or the video that won us this,
Yeah.
Big Ben is like a walking ice man after games. He's just covered in ice from head to toe. I bet he hurts. I bet he's probably in a lot of pain, and his days are coming. His days are coming to an end soon.
And that's the thing. Like, if you asked me to bet right now on the unknown of whether or not Ben was going to be Ben of old or some shell of himself, I'm 100% hammering he's going to be a shell of himself. Because it's so hard for me to think that this guy's going to come back after missing a year at his age, at how he was struggling, and be just as good as he was, an arguably Hall of Fame quarterback.
Oh yeah, I mean he's definitely going to the Hall. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly. So I just think like it really just the AFC North depends on Big Ben and who he is this year. But even if he is who he is, I still think they could send 2 teams in a wild card spot and their division leader, considering really the biggest threat for a wild card spot outside of the AFC North is whoever finishes second between Houston and Tennessee in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's a fight in the East, like the West, I'm not sure there's anybody in the West good enough to challenge Kansas City or for a wild card spot.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if Drew Lock is really who they think he is in Denver, maybe. But I'm not sure John Gruden even likes his quarterback.
Oh, that's why he went out and got Mariota.
Yeah, I'm not even sure John Gruden even likes Derek Carr, but that's probably who he'll start. And then everyone else in that division, is Tyrod going to lead the Chargers to the playoffs?
That's a tough one. I like Tyrod. I was excited when Tyrod came to the Browns in 17, but I think he's starting to develop RG3 type injuries, being that injury prone.
Which makes sense, and RG3 is actually only succeeding right now is because of the offense he's in. You know what I'm saying? Like RG3 seems like he's a really good backup quarterback, but any other offense he probably wouldn't be.
I really wish RG3 would have worked out in Cleveland.
I liked RG3. Don't get me wrong, I had to hate him. It's kind of like a Dwayne Haskins situation right now. He was a Redskin. I couldn't support him. Dwayne Haskins is a Redskin right now. And by all means, if Dwayne Haskins has a good career, I hope he does, just not in Washington.
It's like Lamar Jackson with me. I like Lamar. He's a great player, but he's a Raven.
That man is so hard to hate, bro. I get it. I get it. He's a Raven. It's not somebody you want to root for, but man, just what was thought for him and what, like, I know even me and you thought, like, nobody saw Lamar coming.
Yeah, definitely. I thought he was just going to be throwing picks and stuff, but Harbaugh came out and said that they've been working on downfield passing or Jackson's been working on downfield passing all offseason.
I'll
And
believe
that's what
Harbaugh.
Yeah, and that's what they're gonna focus on when training camp comes. So I don't know if it's gonna be
Harbaugh.
tricky. But the AFC North right now, if Joe Burrow plays like Joe Burrow's supposed to, and Baker comes out in his third year and has, like he said, has a good year. He's done talking. He's ready for action. The AFC is going to be stacked with quarterbacks, except for the Steelers, which is kind of funny.
We're really looking at a changing of guard, like you said. If Burrow turns out, we could really be looking at pretty much the next few years, being a Steelerless division title. You know what I'm saying? Like the Steelers are very much headed towards that transition without a quarterback, and it's because they waited so long to replace Ben Roethlisberger. They've had that guy that seemed like the eventual successor, Landry Jones, or they've had a couple different ones, but it just seemed
Even
like
last year, Devlin looked good
yeah,
when he
Devlin
first
looked
came
good.
out.
Devlin looked good
Mason
when he first
Rudolph?
came out.
No,
Rudolph, I guess he kept him in games, but he never looked to me like their replacement for him. And that's they're almost gonna I'm not sure anybody can keep the quarterback purgatory last as long as the Browns did, but they're very much heading towards that.
yeah. Speaking of Browns and the purgatory, I didn't realize that Colt McCoy went to the Jets.
I didn't know Colt McCoy was ever left Washington.
I'm pretty sure he's on the Jets right now.
I mean, he's shown to be a solid backup. Who, if you need him to go grab a game, he can go grab a game. And I think with the absence of Darnold,
Sorry, not the Jets, the Giants. Close
okay,
enough. Same stadium.
So, same sentiment. Daniel Jones is now their starter going forward. He showed that there's a chance that he's going to miss games. Last year, he missed, I think, 5 or 6 games. I think he missed 3 or 4 towards the front, and I know he missed the last 2. I only know that because it was a story that Eli got to play again before he retired. So, the same thing. There's this quarterback who this team knows he's a young quarterback and he's going to get his time, but this team knows he might miss some time. We need that quality veteran. And in Washington, I think Colt McCoy proved if you need me for 1 or 2 games, I'm your guy. I'm not going to be your guy for 16. And he proved that in Cleveland, but I think he proved he could be a pretty good veteran backup.
It's like when Derek Anderson was down in Carolina, and he came in for a couple games, and he proved that he could still play in the league.
Oh, yeah, it's exactly that. Derek Anderson, like you said, came in for Cam Newton when Cam had to miss a couple games and played well and kept the Panthers in the game. And Colt McCoy did the same thing back when RG3 was in Washington, when Kirk Cousins was in Washington. He had been in Washington for quite a while, so I'm actually surprised he left. But New York, Jason Garrett, knowing him, Jason Garrett, now the offensive coordinator in New York, knowing him from his time in Washington, he continues to sign quarterbacks that he knows. He signed the backup from the Cowboys a couple weeks ago as well, Cooper Rush.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pieces are finally starting to fall into place. I'm still kind of anxious to see where Cam ends up. That's one of the surprising things, that Cam's still floating around free agency.
It's surprising, but it also like I said a couple weeks ago, there's not many starting jobs to go around.
Yeah, but I mean, even a backup. He didn't even come out and say that he was willing to put his ego aside and become a backup.
I heard that about Jameis, but I did not hear that about Cam. From what I understand about Cam it's I want to be a starter, and I don't want to. It's yeah, Cam probably can still be a starter. There's just not that job open. Denver wants to take their shot with Drew Lock. I guess maybe Oakland if Mariota or Carr start getting on Gruden's nerves. But if you
What
look,
team? What team do they have in Oakland? I didn't know Oakland had a football team.
jeez, the Las Vegas. You know what I was talking about. The Raiders, man, the
Had to do
Raiders.
it to
But
you.
go around the NFL and just think like, what team needs a quarterback? New England maybe, but they want to see what they've got in Stidham, and can you blame them? Then they know like. If they bring Cam Newton in, they don't know if they have something with Stidham. They don't know if they need to draft a guy. If they need to tank for Trevor Lawrence. I'd be real upset if Trevor Lawrence ends up being a Patriot, but it's very possible that he is.
Yeah. I just, you know who I want the Patriots to pick up?
I Dustin Crum, and if that could be their guy. I think he's proven that he's tough, and these Kent State quarterbacks for some reason stick around in the NFL.
Yeah. So, last question. Which quotes get you more amped up? Would it be Baker's "We're done talking, we're about action. This is this is my comeback season or my blossoming season," or would it be what the Browns defense coordinator Woods said about Myles Garrett? I think Myles has the right mindset in terms of wanting to be MVP and all of that, but we just need him to be the best player for us that he can be, and whatever happens, happens. Right now, I think he is in a good place.
I think Myles Garrett, the Myles Garrett thing, because he went through so much more. Uh, Mayfield just basically let everyone down last year. Garrett was playing out of this world, and he made one mistake, and his entire season was over, and his career was on the line. So for him to be kind of in that good mentality, realize like he's coming back, and he's gonna have to face this noise week one. You know it's gonna be talked about for 4 weeks of training camp into week one. That's going to be all that's talked about when it comes to the Browns. Baker Mayfield's shitty 2020 or 2019. Myles Garrett in the incident. The Browns finishing 6-10. But the Myles Garrett thing to me, that he's mentally ready, that he's physically ready, that he knows like he's going to deal with some shit. Like Baker Mayfield is just like, you said that last year, bro. To me, at least. You said that last year. Enough talk. Let's play. He said that quite a few times last year. So what's different this year? You got your ass whooped last year? That's what's different?
I mean, he's been riding the Peloton bike.
I mean,
Peloton.
but seriously, is that what's different? You got your ass whooped last year and you couldn't handle it, so this year you gotta pay attention. Like, yeah, you should have been doing that last year, dude. Like, by all means, I hope he has a great year. I hope everything he's saying is right. But I'll take Joe Woods talking about Myles Garrett in the right mentality, because Myles Garrett isn't the one saying I'm in the right mentality. Baker Mayfield, for 6 months before the season started last year, told us how good him and Freddie Kitchens were going to be, how ready they were. Enough talking, let's get to work. Now he wants to be like, enough talking, let's get to work. Well, yeah, we heard that last year. Let's move on. Don't even say anything. Show me a 1-0, 2-0 record to start. And then we'll start talking about, okay, maybe he did his shit.
Yeah, and I mean, he waited until late March or late May to even talk to the media since the football season ended. So, and he's been grinding. I know he's been putting stuff on social media. Him and Emily have been working out and all that. He does look good. Did you see that video of him dancing at that wedding?
I didn't see the video, but I'm not denying, like, I've seen, like, he's posted stuff where he has looked good and stuff like that. I just, like, I don't want to hear it, Baker. You told us all this last year, and then a month ago it was, oh, well, we said all this stuff, but we didn't put in the work. Nick Chubb said that. Like, we said, oh, we thought we were just good enough to win it on paper, and that was good enough. So now, like, we shouldn't be in this situation where you had to learn from your mistakes. Who knows what could have happened with the Browns last year? They certainly, on paper, have a chance to compete at the highest level, and I mean the highest level.
Absolutely. That's why last season was so disappointing.
Because on paper, if the right coach is there and that team plays right, even with knowing who Kansas City is, the Browns have a chance in every single game because of who they have on their roster if they put the work in and the coach makes the right plays and knows what he's talking about beyond 10 scripted plays.
Oh man, and then just sitting there looking clueless, covering his face while all his teammate or all his his players are sitting there talking shit right to his face, and they're getting it on national television.
I mean, do you blame him? Like,
No, not at all.
Anybody could script 10 plays, bro. If you watch and break down film, you could script 10 plays. It's the on the fly stuff that makes you a good coach.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so I'll give him a little bit of slack because of how bad Freddie Kitchens was, but I still don't want to hear it. I still want to show me. Don't talk no shit. Show me in September.
Mm-hmm.
Show me from September 1st to February 28th.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Because if the season gets pushed back at all, that's when we're gonna have a Super Bowl. Show me from September to March. Don't show me now in June. But
Yep.
that's all I got to rant about the NFL.
Yep. Hey, same with me. I'm ready to see what Stefanski can do with the run game, like what he did in Minnesota.
If you're telling me you can make Dalvin Cook do what he did, I'm only excited what you can do with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yep. So that's all I have to say about the NFL.
I'm good too, my man.
So closing words. I have two things to say. First one is, no, I'm not being lazy and not shaving. I'm just gonna see how big and bushy I can get this thing to be.
Bro, we're gonna end up switching our name or something. We're both going long hair and long beard. Mine's just gonna take a little bit to get there.
I'm just trying to go bushy as much as I can, even with the mustache, until it gets annoying. I'm trying to look like a Civil War Union general.
I feel it, my man. That was one. What's number two?
Number two is America. We need to unify, and we need to fight racism and corrupt cops and corrupt system, and we need to get back to being a country that is glued together by love and sports.
Okay, so I'll give two things. I'm doing all right now. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Go ahead and follow us at Podcast Given on Twitter at Any Given Podcast, on Instagram, Facebook.com/Any Given Podcast. You can follow me at BWardCLE. Follow my man Ethan Simpson
at ETH Simpson CGOD.
That's on Twitter. His Instagram doesn't have the CGOD. My Instagram is b.ward52. We don't ever add that, but we should. My last thing, just to kind of add to the sentiments you said. Let's like Richard Sherman said, and I don't quote Richard Sherman often because we don't believe in a lot of stuff, but let's learn something from sports. Sports, you're taught that these guys are your brothers no matter what. Let's learn from that. We are all brothers and sisters. We are all humans. Let's be better. Let's fight oppression. Let's fight police brutality. Most of all lives can't matter unless black lives do. Thank you very much, and you guys have a wonderful day.
Have a good night. Stay blessed.